Hello everyone. In this video we are going to study about Darwin's theory of natural selection. This theory was given by Charles Robert Darwin, and in 1831 he went on a voyage in a warship. This was a warship, and he went on the voyage in this HMS Beagle. Sometimes this is asked, name the ship in which Darwin had a voyage across the European countries. So this is the name of the ship in which he went for the voyage. He was not alone, he was with his friend Sir Alfred Wallace. And in 1839 he formulated this theory, which is called as the theory of natural selection, and he published all the details of the theory in his book called as Origin of Species. Let us see the postulates of Darwin's theory. Postulates means the important features of the theory. So the very first thing that Darwin told was that every species has a tendency of overproduction. That means reproduction. So all the organisms produce far more offsprings that can actually survive. So usually the parents think that if there are more number of children, some may survive and some may not survive, and therefore there are always more offsprings than actually they can survive. If we consider an elephant, if I take the example of elephant, this is a very slow breeder and it has a lifespan of almost 100 years. If it matures at the age of 30, then an average he produces 6 young ones, and beginning with a pair of elephants, if all the offspring survive, by the end of 750 years there will be almost these many elephants, which will be huge in number. And if we talk about bacteria and microorganisms, they will be even more, because they thrive and survive in days, and we are talking about a very slow breeder, which is elephant. So this is how, whether you talk about microorganisms or the largest mammal on the land, so overproduction is always seen among all the species. So this was the postulate, the first postulate that was given by Darwin. Darwin was even very much influenced by Malthus theory. Malthus gave his theory on population. He wrote an essay on population. According to Malthus, the population increases geometrically, while the food resources increase arithmetically. So what is this geometric and arithmetic increase? The population increases geometrically means if it is 2 in the starting, it will then become 4, then it will be 8, then 16, then 32. In this way the population increase. So this is the geometric increase. But what is arithmetic increase? It will be, if it is 1, then it will become 2, then it will become 3, 1 added to every number. So in this way the food resources increase in this arithmetic manner and the population grows geometrically. In this way there is always a limitation for the food, and therefore the population may grow geometrically, but they are limited because the food resources become limited, and therefore they may not all thrive equally. So this was the essay on population which Thomas Malthus gave, and on this basis Darwin told this postulate of overproduction. The second postulate of Darwin is struggle for existence. Because there is overproduction, there is always a struggle between the organisms for existence. Now, this struggle can be of three types: intraspecific struggle, this type of struggle is between the members of a same species. So when they are fighting for some sort of food, suppose a carnivorous animal, if we are talking about wolf, so if two wolves are fighting for a piece of meat, the struggle will be called as intraspecific struggle. The second type of struggle is interspecific struggle. This type of struggle exists between two different species. Interspecific means between two different species. So if we consider two carnivorous animals, a fox and a wolf, and if they are fighting for a rabbit, this will be called as interspecific struggle. And the third type of struggle is the environmental struggle. The struggle that the environmental poses as a threat for the organisms. For example, the flood, the extreme rainfall, the drought conditions, etc. So the organisms have to fight in these three categories: intraspecific struggle, interspecific struggle, and environmental struggle for their existence. The next postulate is that variations exist within a population. Darwin believed on variations. Variations are the differences that occur between the parents and the offsprings, and he said that the variations had always been existing within a population. He said that the offsprings of the same parents also differ from one another. The siblings always show variations. That means the variations are always present within a population, and he considered this variation as a very important feature for evolution, because these variations only accumulate gradually and then show a marked difference in the next generation, or they may even become a new species. So he talked about variations, and he said that variations can be of two types. Variations can be continuous and variations can be discontinuous. The variations which were continuous are always during reproduction. During reproduction, when there is a crossing over process between the paternal and the maternal chromosome, the recombination takes place. So, the child always inherits the recombinant DNA. So the variation that is occurring in the offspring is due to recombination between the paternal and the maternal chromosome. So this is a continuous variation. This is seen in every generation, but it is so small that it could not bring a very large variation in the next generation. So this is a continuous variation and it is very small. The discontinuous variation is large. This was later called to be mutation, which Darwin failed to tell about it. So this was a drawback against Darwin, and this is called as one of the criticisms against Darwin, that he could not include mutation in his theory, but he referred to discontinuous variation. Discontinuous variation are very large and they occur randomly. It is not continuous. It is very large and it occurs randomly and it is directionless. It can be in any direction, while continuous variation is always in a particular direction from the parents to the progeny. So he believed that variations always exist within a population. Discontinuous variation, which now we know as mutation, is due to the alteration in the sequence of genes, that means in the genetic material, we can say, if we know the DNA is a polynucleotide sequence. If the polynucleotide sequence gets altered, or if there is a cut in the chromosome, or if there is a deletion in the chromosome or addition in the chromosome, for example, the 21st trisomy of autosomes, that is the Down's syndrome, we know that there are 23 pairs of chromosome, and the 21st pair has an additional chromosome, so it is known as trisomy, which is known as Down syndrome. So there is suddenly a mutation that we see in the increase in the chromosome. So this form of marked difference that is seen in the variation that is seen in the next generation is the discontinuous variation. However, this was not totally called as mutation by Darwin. The next postulate is the survival of the fittest. Survival of the fittest can be very nicely understood by Lamarck's example of giraffe. Darwin said that there are always different types of organisms present in the same species. For example, there can be small heighted giraffe and there could be long giraffes also with long neck as well as the forelimbs which are very long. So he said that trees which were always big and were always having nice leaves on the tree top were present always, but those giraffe which could reach to the tree top were only the ones which were tall in height, and therefore the ones which were small perished, because nature demanded the long giraffes at that time when the vegetation could not last in the ground, and therefore nature selected those giraffes which were very tall. This is called as survival of the fittest by Sir Herbert Spencer. So it was nature who selected the long giraffes and allowed the small giraffes to perish. So survival of the fittest means at that particular time the fittest organisms were the long giraffe, and therefore they could only survive and could reproduce. Since they were left, they only reproduced, and today the progeny of the long giraffes only are left. So we find them to be tall today, and that is what was the explanation of Darwin for the long giraffe today. This is called as survival of the fittest, and this is very important postulate because sometimes this particular term is only asked, what do you mean by survival of the fittest? So this is totally based on nature, that nature only selects the fittest organism, and the fit organism is the ability for the organism to survive even in the extreme conditions. The last postulate is the origin of species. As the variations which are favorable, according to Darwin, those variations which were very favorable were inherited. So the favorable variations get inherited in the next generation and they get accumulated. So we can call this as weeding out process also. Weeding out process means the unwanted are removed out. So this is known as weeding out process, and only the favorable ones are left. So the organisms with the favorable variations are only left, and these variations gradually accumulate, and after a long period of time the organisms become so different from the individuals of the original species that they become a new species, which we say to be the origin of species. So the formation of a new species is known as speciation. So this is the process which is speciation, or we can say the evolution, because a new species has evolved from the previous species. So this is known as origin of species. Now let us understand this theory of natural selection by considering certain examples. The first example, which is very frequently asked in the exam, is industrial melanism. This is an example that we are considering for a moth. It was a grey colored moth. The scientific name of this moth is Biston Betularia. This was existing in England in the early 19th century. the time in which the industries were not much found in that particular part, Berkshire of England. So in the early 19th century, that area was quite pollutionless. So the trees had a lot of growth of lichens. Lichens are very susceptible to pollution, and they do not grow at all where the pollution is much, and therefore the trees were covered with lichens which were almost grayish whitish in color. And on the bark of such trees where the lichens were growing, these grey moth could easily hide, because it could camouflage with the same color, the grey moth in the background where the lichens were growing. They were also greyish and whitish, and therefore the grey moth was growing very nicely, because the birds could not find this moth to eat. There is another type of moth which is black in color, and the black moth is, the genus is the same, Biston carbonaria. This is a black colored moth. This was very less in quantity because they could easily be detected by the birds on the grayish whitish background, and therefore the birds could easily find the black moth and they were eating the black moth, and very few of them were left. So this is the time when the industrial revolution was not much, but later when there was lot of industries set up, the carbon soot was continuously emitted by the industries, the chimneys, and finally the grayish whitish lichens were getting lost because the pollution was increasing, and also the barks were getting covered with the carbon soot, and the bark now turned black. Now it was favorable for the black moth to hide, and the grey moth was gradually being seen. So on the bark of the trees, the black moth could easily hide, and now it was increasing in population while the grey moth gradually decreased. So this is all by the nature. The nature selected the presence of grey moth earlier and black moth was less, but with the change in time and the industrial revolution took place, the black moth was favored, and this increased in population. Although these were very few, but since they were left out, now they reproduced and they became much in number. So this is what is called as industrial melanism. Melanin is actually referred for pigmentation, so this is also referring to the change in the color from the grey background to the black because of the industrial revolution. And so there is always the nature who plays an important role in selecting which type of species and which type of particular organism will thrive. And this is what is known as the survival of the fittest. Now let us consider a second example, the DDT resistance by mosquitoes. Now we know that mosquitoes are the vectors for Plasmodium, which is the malarial parasite, and also one more organism, Wuchereria, which causes filariasis, the elephant leg. So the Plasmodium and Wuchereria are the parasites which are present inside the mosquito vector, and therefore mosquitoes are not very good. They have to be removed from the living areas. For this reason, usually the DDT is sprayed so that the mosquitoes get killed. In the early times, the mosquitoes were easily killed by this particular pesticide known as DDT. Finally, there was a variation and there was a mutant gene which occurred in mosquito. Now, this particular mutant gene was resistant to DDT, and the mosquito that was which were very few which developed that mutant gene could resist DDT. So, maximum of them were dead. Maximum mosquitoes died because of the pesticide, but there were few with the mutant gene. They were very less in number, but they lived. because they had the gene which could resist the DDT. And after they were dead, these mosquitoes, which were very less, reproduced and thrived, and they became more in number. Now, even after the spread of DDT, the mosquitoes were not killed, and this was only because of the presence of this mutant gene. So this was the variation in the normal species of mosquito, that the mutant gene actually came. This was a variation, and now the mosquitoes could not be killed, and therefore the species is still alive, and no pesticide could totally kill the mosquitoes from the society. Let us consider one more example, which is sickle cell anemia. Sickle cell anemia is a very good example of natural selection. This is an autosomal recessive disorder in which there is a change in the shape of the RBCs. The RBCs are commonly disc shaped, biconcave, and this enables them to carry the oxygen. But if they become sickle shaped, the oxygen carrying capacity becomes very less. So RBCs usually are this biconcave shaped. So it is in this manner, the cellular manner, it looks like a disc, and the 4 oxygen molecules are carried in this way. But if it becomes sickle shaped in this manner, the oxygen carrying capacity becomes less. Inside the RBC, the pigment hemoglobin is present. So the normal, there are 2 alleles. So if the normal allele is carrying this is the normal condition in which this biconcave shape is there with the normal hemoglobin structure. So this is one type of condition. There is another type of condition in which there is one allele which is normal, but the other allele carries this sickle shape cell. So I will refer it with S. And there is a third condition in which both the alleles are having this particular gene, in which the hemoglobin, the RBCs become sickle shaped. So this becomes recessive. Therefore, I am calling it as autosomal recessive disorder. So this malaria is very frequent in Africa. In the African continents, malaria is very frequent, and the people living over there also are prone to sickle cell anemia. According to nature, it should be like this dominant structure, which is very normal, should be the most dominant feature, but the nature has selected this particular heterozygous condition in which one normal allele is present and one defective allele is present. It is so because this is very much prone to malaria, because this is normal and the malarial parasite can live inside easily. But in this actually sickle cell anemia, the hemoglobin is having 4 chains, the beta 2 beta chains and 2 alpha chains. So the 6th position in the beta chain, it has glutamic acid. Glutamic acid is one of the amino acids. The glutamic acid is changed by valine. This is another amino acid. So this is a condition in which the mutation has taken place. There is a variation in which glutamic acid has been changed by valine. So when valine replaces glutamic acid, the gene becomes defective. So once this becomes defective, the malarial parasite cannot live inside. It harms or it hampers its metabolism, and therefore it could not sustain. So what nature has allowed, that the African people who are having this particular type will not be suffering from, they may have it in the recessive, one of the genes may be there, but they will never suffer from malaria, because one of the genes is there in this manner, the alleles is in this manner, and it may be that the metabolic process of the plasmodium may get hampered. So this is favored by the nature. So this is a very good example of natural selection. Now let us discuss the drawbacks of Darwinism. The first drawback was that Darwin could not differentiate between heritable mutations and non-heritable mutations. He only called them as variations. So therefore he could not talk much about, in fact it should be variations, he could not talk much about mutation. So the second drawback is also that he didn't take into his account the mutations. Although he said that there are certain variations, but he could not explain mutation as such. Then he explained about the survival of the fittest, but he failed to explain the arrival of the fittest. He also could not explain the presence of vestigial organ. Vestigial organs are those organs which are found in the body, but then they are of no use. So Darwin's theory does not talk about vestigial organs. He also could not explain about the over specialization. Some of the organs are vestigial, but some of them are over specialized. For example, the tusk of an elephant and also the antlers of deer. These sometimes give hindrance to the organism, while it could not provide its usefulness. So these particular parts become over specialized. Why? And this was not explained by Darwin. And he failed to explain the mode of transmission of variations to the next generation. So these were the drawbacks that were the critics propose all these as criticism against Darwin, and so we count them to be drawbacks of Darwin's theory. So this is all about Darwin's theory of natural selection. If you have any doubt, you may ask me in the comment section, and you may also refer to the questions given in the description box. Thank you.